Asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms have complex body structure with tissues specialized for particular functions. Cell-by-cell division to reproduce, as seen in unicellular organisms, is thus not possible in these organisms. Hence, reproduction is more complex in multicellular organisms. Types of asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms. Fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, and spore formation. Fragmentation. Fragmentation is a form of asexual reproduction in which an organism splits into fragments. With cell enlargement and subsequent mitosis, each fragment grows into a new individual. Fragmentation is the normal mode of reproduction in the filament of Spirogyra. Regeneration. If a planaria is cut into several pieces, each piece develops into an individual planaria. This is the process of regeneration, where specialized cells proliferate to produce large number of cells that differentiate into various cell types and tissues, and a new organism is produced that is genetically identical to the parent. In higher organisms like vertebrates and flowering plants, regeneration takes the form of body repairs, where wounds and damaged cells or tissues are replaced with new ones. Budding. Some multicellular organisms like Hydra reproduce by budding. A protrusion or bud develops from the stalk of Hydra and grows into a miniature Hydra whose body cavity is continuous with that of the parent Hydra. The miniature Hydra gets nourishment from the parent and grows. When the young Hydra is sufficiently developed, the base is sealed off and it is detached from the parent body to grow as an independent individual. Vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation is a type of asexual reproduction in plants whereby new plants are produced from the vegetative parts of the plant, that is, roots, stems, or leaves, without the production of seeds. New plants grow from roots of sweet potato, from potato tuber, from leaves of bryophyllum. Spore formation. Spores are formed in plants such as fungi, example, bread mold or mucor, and certain algae. In molds, the spores that are formed in the sporangium are released when mature and germinate to form new molds under favorable conditions. Spores are formed in ferns too. Cloning. The process by which an entire organism is produced from a single cell of a parent organism is called animal cloning. The DNA of the cloned animal is identical to the parent DNA. So, it is an exact duplicate of its parent in every way. Dolly sheep was the first cloned mammal. Sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of the male and the female gametes. The two processes involved in sexual reproduction are meiosis and fertilization. 1. Meiosis. It is a type of cell division by which the number of chromosomes 2n in a cell nucleus is halved during the formation of haploid N germ cells. Since meiosis forms the basis of sexual reproduction, it increases the genetic diversity of the offspring. This supports evolution of organisms and creates biodiversity. 2. Fertilization. Fertilization is the process of fusion of male and female gametes to form the diploid zygote. Sexual reproduction in plants. Flower. The flower is the reproductive structure in a plant. The different parts of a flower are sepals, petals, stamens, and carpels. Sepals protect the flower in the bud stage. Petals surround the reproductive parts of the flower and are usually brightly colored to attract pollinators. Stamen is the male reproductive part of the flower. A stamen has a long stalk called the filament, with a usually bilobed structure called the anther at the tip. The anther produces pollen grains that form the male gametes or germ cells. Carpel present in the center of the flower is the female reproductive part. The carpel has a swollen base that contains one or more egg cells or ovules. An elongated part called the style and a sticky terminal part called the stigma. The stigma is the receptive organ that receives the pollen grains during pollination. Pollination. Pollination is the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. Pollination is of two types: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination. Self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains to stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant. Fertilization. After pollination, a pollen tube containing two male gametes grows out from a pollen grain that travels through the style to reach the ovary. the male gametes are released near the egg. One of the male gametes fuses with the egg cell to form the zygote. The second one fuses with the secondary nucleus in the embryo sac to form the endosperm. This is called double fertilization. Formation of seed and the fruit. The zygote divides several times to develop into an embryo within the ovule. Endosperm provides nourishment to the growing embryo. The ovule develops into a seed, an ovary into the fruit. Germination. The embryo contained within the seed develops into a seedling under appropriate conditions. This process is known as germination. Reproduction in human beings. Puberty. A human child undergoes a process of physical changes called puberty, by which the child's body matures into an adult body capable of sexual reproduction. On average, puberty begins at the age of 11. Girls usually complete puberty by 18 years, while boys complete puberty by the age of 21, and they become physically ready to reproduce. The male reproductive system. The male reproductive system consists of testis, epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate glands, and penis. The two testes are located outside the abdominal cavity in the scrotum that keeps the testis at an optimal temperature for production of sperms, that is, male germ cells. They secrete the hormone testosterone that plays an important role in bringing about changes in boys during puberty. Epididymis develops and stores the immature sperms. Vas deferens are tubes through which sperms travel towards the urethra. Seminal vesicle and prostate glands produce ejaculatory fluid that helps carry the sperm and provide nutrients. Penis delivers the sperms to the site of fertilization. A sperm cell has a head with the nucleus, a middle part and a tail. The nucleus carries the genetic information. The middle part has many mitochondria for production of energy to move forward with the help of its tail towards the egg cell. Concept map. Reproduction is a life process that helps to prevent extinction. Reproduction may be asexual or sexual. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent and takes place in unicellular as well as multicellular organisms. The different types of asexual reproduction found in unicellular organisms are binary fission, multiple fission, and budding. The different types of asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms are fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, and spore formation. In case of vegetative propagation, new plants are formed from roots, stems, and leaves. Sexual reproduction involves two sexes, male and female. The male produces the male germ cell, whereas the female produces the egg cell. The male germ cell and the egg unite to form the zygote. The zygote develops into a new individual. The female reproductive system consists of vagina, uterus, and ovaries. Vagina is a muscular tube extending from the vaginal opening to the uterus. It provides a path for menstrual blood to leave the body, for sperms to enter the body, and pathway for childbirth. Uterus is an elastic muscular organ where the fetus is implanted and develops until childbirth. It is connected to the ovaries through the oviducts. Ovaries are two oval-shaped organs that lie on either side of the uterus. They produce eggs and secrete the estrogen hormone that brings about changes in girls during puberty. On reaching puberty, a woman's ovaries usually release one egg each month. Menstruation. Menstruation is the monthly shedding of the unfertilized eggs along with blood and mucus from the uterus of a female through the vagina. It lasts about 3 to 5 days. Fertilization, development, and birth. In humans, the egg is fertilized by the sperms in the oviduct to form the zygote, which divides and redivides to form a ball of cells called a blastocyst. The blastocyst is implanted in the uterine wall. The embryo gets nourishment and oxygen from the mother's blood through the umbilical cord and develops in the uterus. After a gestation period of 9 months, the cervix, the lower end of the uterus, gradually opens and the baby is delivered through the vagina. Need for and methods of family planning. Disadvantages of a large family. Some of the disadvantages of a large family are economic pressure, poor health of mother, negligence of children, poor housing, malnutrition, insufficient medical care, lack of proper education. To overcome the disadvantages of a large family, there is a need for family planning. Methods of family planning. Family planning can be achieved by using the following methods of contraception: avoid pregnancy, condoms, oral pills, copper tea. Sexually transmitted diseases, that is STD, like syphilis, gonorrhea, and AIDS, spread from an infected person to a healthy person through unprotected sexual contact. The use of condom not only helps in contraception, but protects individuals from sexually transmitted diseases as well.